Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for the New York State Olympic Authority Camera Ready FAM Tour. My name is Laura Burning. I'm a staff member here at the Governor's Film Office, and I work closely with New York's exceptional agency partners to encourage and facilitate filming requests. We are so pleased to have members of the Olympic Authority team here today to show you their really impressive locations and how to film at them. Before the tour begins, I want to mention just a few things about the Zoom today. We will be recording today's session, so you can watch this and past virtual events through a link found on our website and the link over in the chat box. You can refer to the chat box today for important links and contact information. And at the end of the presentation, there will be a brief Q&A, and we will be taking questions through the Q&A box located on the bottom center of the Zoom screen. So before we get to the main event, I want to introduce Yoni Boxer, the Executive Director here at the New York State Governor's Office of Motion Picture and Television Development. Yoni, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, hello, and thank you all for joining us here for a tour of the Olympic Regional Development Authority. Thank you, Laura, for that great introduction and everything you, Mason, Lena, Shaylin, and others have done to organize these tours. Welcome, everyone. It's so good to see so many folks, familiar names and new names, from LA to Buffalo, Long Island, and Hudson Valley. As Laura mentioned, my name is Yoni Boxer, and I'm the Executive Director of the New York State Governor's Office of Motion Picture and TV Development. The Governor has made it clear that the film and TV industry is a priority for New York State. And our New York State partners are key to keeping the New York State film and television industry thriving. As many of you know, New York has world-class crew and talent, unique locations, and competitive tax credits. The Governor has led the expansion and enhancement of the film tax credit program to ensure New York State remains competitive in attracting film production. With new and enhanced film tax credit program that includes an enhanced base credit of 30%, above the line eligibility with certain caps, a 40% credit for shoots upstate, new requirements for productions to create and implement diversity hiring goals and plans for diverse employees and vendors to ensure productions reflect the diversity of New York State and were as competitive as possible. A relocation incentive, an expansion of the program to $700 million per year, and an additional 5 years through 2034, and much more. The Governor has brought New York back into the competitive fold, which means jobs stay here in New York and productions come to New York. If you have questions specifically about the tax credit program, contact ESD directly by looking in the chat box. As the Governor's Office of Film and TV Production, we support and attract film and TV production to the state in many ways, but we wouldn't be able to do it without any of our partners throughout government. Our office serves the liaison between New York State and the film and TV production industry. It's great to see so many of our attendees today that have worked on projects that have successfully utilized state entity assets throughout the state for their projects, big and small. From the Department of Parks and Recreation to the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision Home, the state's Office of General Services, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, the Port Authority, the Olympic Authority, and many more. When you work with our state agencies, there are partners who help facilitate the magic. In December, the Governor's Office sent out a directive to state agencies acknowledging their great track record for safely and smoothly supporting film and TV production. This has allowed audiences around the globe to see New York State's assets on the big and small and now mobile screens. The Governor's Office directed these state partners to build upon this success by proactively marketing state assets, carrying out prompt communications on state film and policies with industry stakeholders, ensuring efficient turnaround time for film and permits, and emphasizing transparency with all reasonable fees and costs related to film in New York. That's what brings us here today. Our office has been working with state, local, and regional partners on virtual FAM tours. As Laura mentioned and has led on these initiatives, You can find more of them on our website and in the chat. From the Port Authority to Albany and Rochester to the Hudson Valley, it's a great tour throughout the state. Now let's take a minute to consider. You can close your eyes if you want. The Olympic Authority has managed the facilities at the Lake Placid site since the 1980 Olympics. Over the past few years, the state has invested more than $500 million in the Olympic Authority's facilities, hosting the FISA World Games, announcing mountain bike trails initiatives, the Olympic jumping complex, Mount Van Hoevenberg, Whiteface Mountain, luge and bobsled facilities, Gore Mountain, Bel Air Mountain, and much more. These are great potential locations for film productions, and I know some of you in the audience, you've had challenges working with private ski mountains and have found success working with state entities. I'm so excited for this presentation, and all our teams have done working on it. I want to thank the Olympic Authority's President Ashley Walden, Ona, Aaron, Lisa, Darcy, and their whole teams. Without further ado, I introduce Darcy Norfolk, Olympic Authority's Director of Communications.
Thank you, Yoni, and thanks to your entire team for all the help and support and getting us here today to talk about our facilities, which we are very passionate about. So we love to share more about what we offer, not only to guests, but obviously for film production. So just to start, my name is Darcy Rowe Norfolk. I'm the Director of Communications here at the Olympic Authority, and joining me here today as well is Ona Kwiatkowski, who is our Media Asset Coordinator, as well as Aaron Hobson, who is our Lead Creative. We have a couple other people, I'm not sure if they're going to just be listening in, but Adam Powers, who's our legal counsel, and then Renee Fitzgerald, and they work with us on agreements and access to our facilities when the time comes for use for film or production. As Yoni mentioned, the New York State Olympic Regional Development Authority was established in right after the 1980 Olympic Games, and we've had significant investment to rejuvenate these venues over the past 7 years to bring them back to which is actually world-class status, probably be better than they were for 1980. And so we're going to go through each of these venues specifically. I'm going to go at a high level. And then we're going to kind of dig in a little bit, and all of the informations in terms of specifications and additional photos will be made available. So first, just a little backdrop. So when we were mentioning the Olympic Winter Games, I think people are very familiar with the 1980 games that we hosted, but we actually hosted the third ever 1932 Olympic Winter Games. And this really put Lake Placid and our Olympic facilities on the map as a host of high-level sport. And so what you're seeing here is our James C. Sheffield Speed Skating Oval, where it was the opening ceremonies in 1932. We still have this oval. It looks a lot different than that, and you'll see, and up in the top right corner is the Horse Show grounds, which were the site of the 1980 opening ceremonies, and where this the torch was lit, which still exists right there today. In 1980, 37 nations represented over 1,000 athletes right here in Lake Placid, and it was a time of tense period in the Cold War. And the U.S. men's hockey team demonstrated the heart of champions by defeating seemingly undefeatable Soviet team, which became very well known as the Miracle on Ice. And this really captured the entire nation and the hearts of them when they went on to win gold. And so this is still very much a big piece of our history and is still considered one of the greatest sporting moments of all time. Not to be forgotten, though, was Eric Heiden, who also at the Speed Skating Oval won 5 golds in 5 different speed skating events, setting 4 Olympic records at that period of time in 1980. Oh, sorry. Sorry, we got a little ahead. So next up, I just want to talk a little bit about the vicinity of our facilities here in New York State. And so I'm just going to start off with Bel Air Mountain. So we do have 3 mountains that we represent. Bel Air is the one that's closest to New York City. It's located in High Mount, New York. It's about 80 miles south of Albany and about 2 hours from New York City. Above that, you'll see Gore Mountain. Gore is located in North Creek, New York, and that's just north of Albany as well. And then further up is Whiteface Mountain, and that is located in the town of Wilmington, which is about 15 minutes outside the village of Lake Placid, which was the host, obviously, of the Olympic Games and where we're located today. There in Lake Placid, you also have the Olympic Center, the Olympic Jumping Complex, and Mount Van Hoevenberg, and the 4 venues, including Whiteface Mountain, make up the Lake Placid Legacy Sites. And at all of these locations, we're active with year-round recreation events, as well as at many of these venues, we host World Cups, World Championships, and we bring millions of athletes and spectators to our region. In Lake Placid, we are about 2 hours from Montreal and Albany, and we are 5 hours from New York City, Toronto, and Boston. So next up, we just want to start off talking about the venues a little bit with this short little video. About that. All right, let's move on. Okay, sorry about that. All right, let's talk a little bit next about Bel Air specifically. So as I mentioned, 2 hours from New York City, this ski resort is located in the Catskill Park. The mountain vertical is just about 1,400 with a summit of just over 3,400. There are 3 lodges, all ranging from around 2,000 to 3,300 square feet. The new Discovery Lodge is beautiful. It has new modern large doors that open and you have the inside out. There's an expansion actually planned there that will break ground this spring. There's 64 ski trails. There's also cross-country trails, and there's 8 lifts, including 1 gondola. And we'll get into the beach in just a moment. Next up is Gore Mountain. So Gore, as I mentioned, is in North Creek, New York. It has actually become one of our premier sports destinations in the Northeast. People who ski Gore just love Gore. The mountain has 108 trails. There's 28 glades, a freestyle area, cross-country snowshoe loop, 14 lifts, including a gondola as well. And Gore came about in 1934 when the first snow train arrived. And in 1967, it actually had the first gondola was obviously here in New York State. In 2016, Gore Mountain actually went green with solar panels and today still has the largest solar farm dedicated to a ski resort in the United States. The mountain vertical is just over 2,500 feet with a mountain summit of 3,600 feet. And there actually are 4 peaks that actually comprise Gore. We're breaking ground at the base of one of these peaks at the Ski Bowl this spring and doing some modernization. And we will have a new attraction, which will be exciting, which is an innovative new zip coaster that'll combine the features of a zip line with a rail system. Whiteface Mountain, known as the greatest vertical in the East. Again, located in Wilmington, New York, just about 15 minutes from Lake Placid itself. It is the 5th tallest peak in the Adirondack region, with elevation just over 2,800 feet. It's a premier ski destination from advanced skiers to beginner skiers. It has 94 trails. It actually has one trail named the Wilmington Trail, which is 2.1 miles long. There are 12 lifts, including one gondola, base lodge with amenities, a Bear Den Learning Center, Legacy Lodge, which is our mid-station, mid-mountain lodge, which is brand new as of a couple years ago, ski patrol access lodges, and at the top of Little Whiteface, a deck that overlooks Lake Placid Lake and the village of Lake Placid beyond. On the other side of Whiteface Mountain from the ski resort is the Veterans Memorial Highway. And so this is the only mountain that you can actually access by vehicle. And so from a toll building that resembles a Swiss chalet, which is the start of the roadway, which is paved, then you go 5 miles and over 2,000 feet in elevation to the top, where it ends with a 2-story castle. And there are 9 designated stops along the way. When you get to the top, you have phenomenal 360-degree views. More on this momentarily. Mount Van Hoevenberg, again, brand new, spectacular facility with Mountain Pass Lodge in the middle. It's 55,000 square feet. On one side of Mount Van Hoevenberg, you have the sliding track, which hosts bobsled, luge, and skeleton events. And on the other side, which is the top right picture, is our Nordic Center, with obviously cross-country skiing, biathlon. And this is a year-round facility. The cross-country trails comprise of 55 kilometers. There's a new biathlon range, and we have one of the most powerful snowmaking systems devoted to Nordic skiing on the competition trails there. The lodge actually inside contains a climbing center, an indoor push track, a sprint track, a number of amenities, including food as well as retail. The sliding track obviously is known for bobsled, luge, and skeleton. This weekend we host the World Cup in bobsled and skeleton. It's an active track of only one of 15 in the entire world. In the summer, it transitions to bobsled on wheels. Additionally, at the facility, we have a cliffside coaster, which actually runs the same track as the 1980 bobsled track. And so there's a historical audio that you also hear when you're on that attraction. And then moving on to, so here's Mount Van Hoevenberg again with some of the pictures. Obviously the top left is an aerial view of the bobsled track. And then you can see some of the pictures of the bobsled itself. So the Olympic Center. So the Olympic Center is all new as well. It's located in downtown Lake Placid and actually is comprised of the 1980 Herb Brooks Arena, the 1932 Jack Shea Arena, the James C. Sheffield Speed Skating Oval, as well as the Lake Placid Olympic Museum and the USA Rink. The rink capacity of the 1980 is 8,000. The 1932, which is the upper right, is 1,200. And the practice rink of USA is 200. There's also a brand new open floor plan as part of Miracle Plaza with a cafe and a lounge, as well as doors that open to a deck with spectacular views of the high peaks and beyond. Attached to the Olympic Center is a conference center where there are 20+ breakout rooms, salons, and exhibition spaces, and again, decks that overlook the high peaks. And within the Olympic Center, we have the Lake Placid Olympic Museum. And this is new. It was recently rejuvenated in November of 2022. The space now breathes new life into all of the artifacts, which represent obviously the 1932 and the 1980 games, but also provides a glimpse into just in the Olympics in general. As you traverse the halls, you'll find yourself walking in hand with history and just connecting with the legacy of the Olympics. The museum capacity is 154, and there is actually a reception room next door called the Empire Room. And the Olympic Jumping Complex. So ski jumping was actually introduced as an Olympic sport in 1924 and with the 1932 games in Lake Placid. And today we still have the HS 100 meter and the HS 128 meter jumps. The HS just signifies the hill size from the takeoff to the farthest landing point. There is a 40-meter training hill as well, a freestyle aerial training center with year-round training and competition, whereby landing on a steeply inclined hill in the winter or a large swimming pool in the summer. Additionally, there's an 8-person gondola, which takes athletes and visitors to the base of the towers, and then new decks for up-close viewing of competitive events and training. Additionally, the gondola carries visitors to the launch deck of a new zipline course, which is also located there. This added attraction actually has guests following the path of a jumper from the HS 100-meter tower, allowing them to feel like they're in flight of a ski jumper. You can also take the elevator with glass that looks out with spectacular views to the top of the HS 128 tower. And there's a lounge with a capacity of 100 with an outside viewing deck. And finally, at the base, there's the Intervals Base Lodge, again with a nice large viewing deck, upper conference rooms, common areas, and coffee and retail shop. So next I'm going to pass it off to Aaron Hobson, and he's going to take you through some more details on these facilities. Aaron.
Thank you, Darcy. Yes, I'm gonna a couple quick slides. This will be a little different, ranging from our traditional to a more hypothetical, outside of the box, hopefully inspirational vision of our venues. A little fun fact, I am on IMDb twice. I starred and narrated in a short film, a French film, that made the festival circuits, and then also was hired by Bret Easton Ellis and Paul Schrader to do the opening and closing photography for their film The Canyons with Lindsay Lohan back in 2013. So along with our experienced and amazing communication staff, I'm another asset to any creatives or film companies and pre-scouting and information and all that. So without further ado, get into the first venue, which is Bel Air Mountain, which is the closest one to New York City, our very quintessential New England mom and pop friendly, family friendly ski resort. It's got all the Catskill feels and vibes. They also have, on the bottom right, you can see they have I think it's a 2-acre pond and beach at the base of the mountain. That's pretty popular in the summer. Neil Patrick Harris just filmed there, I think last year, Uncoupled. And then I think 2 years ago, Kelsey Grammer was there, but he was just guest bartending, which was pretty interesting. We want to move on to the next one. Okay, Whiteface Memorial Highway. This one's pretty amazing because of the 5-mile road up that's recently modernized and paved. You can get full production trucks, tour buses go up there all the time. Some unique aspects to it. In 1935, Governor Roosevelt, New York State Governor Roosevelt, dedicated it, or no, 1929. And then in 1935, as president, it opened. So the castle that's at the top, the tunnel and elevator, and the Summit House were all built, I think, and completed in the 30s, late 30s, and are still all working. The tunnel to get in up to the elevator is about a football and a half field, football field and a half in length. It's kind of always wet in there because you're in the middle of a mountain underneath it. And then it leads you to a 27-story elevator that'll take you to the summit. Or in the upper right, you can see a pretty cool natural staircase if you want to choose climbing up that route. Again, this is a great place for just having access to the 5th highest mountain in New York State. There's a lot of angles and shots that could be done without any of the man-made objects or subjects in it. So it could just look like someone just happened to be on top of the mountain and you got all your crew and gear up there by carrying it. That's an amazing venue. Next is a little bit outside the box. This is where we come into our superhero, weird James Bond territory. I always imagine the ski jumps, which you can see here. There's a room on the upper right, which I could imagine any kind of James Bond character having it turn that room into a set or something. And the elevator on the left, if you shoot at that angle, you can't tell it's a ski jump. It just looks like some strange underground elevator going up into the sky to an apartment or a house or a lair or something. Combine that with walking into the tunnel at Whiteface to an elevator and then switch to this elevator could be a pretty cool short sci-fi something special thing. Then lastly, I think just in general, Lake Placid and our venues are so unique in the world. And the village itself kind of lends itself to the Scandinavian or Swiss Alps type town. And I think there could be a lot of options for filming something that's meant to be in Europe by just putting a little signage, international signage up here and there and faking it. We're very unique in North America without having to go to Europe. That was an option. And then disclaimer on the ski jump, the Mini Cooper going down the ski jumps and the guy skiing down the bobsled track. We don't recommend doing that. And my legal department would probably advise against it. But there's just examples of outside the box. The bobsled track was 1961 and 1989 James Bond movies. The first one was two bobsleds going down the track. The second one was James Bond on skis chasing a motorcycle down a track in Germany. And then the Mini Cooper was launched off a, I think, Swedish ski jump by the Top Gear crew in 2012. And that's about it. Thank you for the time and look forward to possibly working with you in the future. Oh, and here's a roll of some of our most recent productions.
Doing that, sorry. Okay. All right, so next up, Ona.
All right. Trying to. Can you hear me?
You can hear us.
All right. So the permitting process. As a New York State entity, the Olympic Authority is committed to ensuring your project success. Let's dive into the key points for a smooth permitting process. Today, we'll guide you through the steps for a site access request. Understanding the process is crucial. Here are the key points. First, allow 3 weeks for processing. This ensures a full review and signing of all necessary documents. To initiate, please contact Darcy or myself. I will submit a request for access form with project dates, project details, filming dates, and contact info. This form is the foundation for legal procedures and the following agreements. Remember, your agreement does not include the use of the Olympic rings. Additional permissions are needed from the Olympic Paralympic Committee and the International Olympic Committee. We'll also work together with the venue managers to schedule your arrival and address needs during your production. Now let's talk about drone usage at our Olympic properties. The Olympic Authority permits drone use exclusively at our venues. For outside areas like the Forest Reserve, overseen by the Department of Environmental Conservation, separate authorization is required. Drone operators must comply with FAA regulations and provide FFA documentation. Insurances. Let's make sure you meet the requirements. General liability, auto liability, umbrella liability, drone liability, workers' comp, and employers' liability insurance are all required. Legal agreements must be issued by our legal department, formalizing your access and ensuring compliance with all venue regulations. By adhering to this process, you streamline access, contributing to a smooth project completion. If you have any questions or need initiation, or oops, please contact Darcy or myself. Thank you for choosing the Olympic Authority, and we look forward to bringing your project to life at our iconic venues.
Thank you, Ona. So that completes our presentation. Of course, there's a lot more information that we can share. As I mentioned, there's a full specifications document on all of the rooms, lodges, and the facilities themselves, as well as a tremendous number of pictures to get a much bigger perspective as needed. So again, we're located in Lake Placid as our corporate headquarters, overseeing the Lake Placid legacy sites, but also Whiteface, Gore, and Bel Air Mountains are part of our portfolio. And if you're interested in learning more, please reach out. The contact information is right here on the screen. And we look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Great, thank you so much. Let's get to some questions. First of all, I just want to mention, absolutely incredible, stunning locations. Nothing like this in the United States. Really, really fantastic. And Aaron, I love your visions. I love you. You're a location scout in another life for sure. So let's get to some questions. So the first question is, you mentioned special permissions for the iconic Olympic rings. Can the State Olympic Authority facilitate that request?
Yes. So just quickly, just to review that quick, the United States Olympic Paralympic Committee is actually the owners of the exclusive right to use the Olympic marks. And of course, we do have an agreement with them on our use of them, but yes, we would facilitate that through our legal department and with their counterparts of the USOPC for that in terms of initial questions and any type of next steps.
Okay, great, thank you. All right. So we've had not very much snow this winter or last winter. And we know a lot of things that shoot in the wintertime need snow. So if there's not enough natural snow on the ground for my scene, someone is asking, can I talk to the Olympic Authority about making snow and trucking it to my location?
So actually, on that note, a couple of things. Number one is, if anyone's familiar with, it's called Winter Jam. It did not take place this year just for some budget cuts, but that's an event down in New York City, and typically New York City doesn't see much snow. And so usually end of January, beginning of February, we work with one of the mountains, typically Gore or Bel Air, because they're closer, and we make snow, we truck it down to New York City, and then we create kind of a winter playground. So obviously all this is dependent on our ability to make snow. The good thing on that is that at all three of our mountains, in terms of their locations, including Mount Van Hoevenberg, we have modernized snowmaking equipment. And so it's very low energy, cost efficient, not cost efficient, but we have the ability to make snow when the weather allows us. And so there's kind of an art and science to snowmaking in terms of humidity and temperatures and the like. So it's a situation that has some variables to it. But in terms of making snow, yes, we absolutely have the ability to do that. That's
great. Thank you so much. Okay, a lot of excitement about the castle on top of Whiteface Mountain. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the challenges and restrictions perhaps of filming there in the wintertime? And also, you know, is there any access to the Veterans Memorial Highway to get up the mountain during the winter season?
Yeah, so first of all, the Veterans Memorial Highway doesn't open until the end of May, and it usually does close beginning of October. So there are limitations definitely just in terms of safety for use of that highway in months obviously outside of May through October. So it really kind of depends on the weather a bit. We've had requests in the past for sunrise as well. We're open to having a discussion about those things and working with our Whiteface management team, but typically filming end of May to beginning of October is the best way to go.
Gotcha. Great. So we have time for one more question. And that is, how long do the Olympic-owned ski mountains, how long are they making snow this year?
So every mountain's a little bit varied, but obviously when the temperatures are within the range that are needed, and the formula's there, we're typically looking at mid-November. We strive to always be open by Thanksgiving, if not earlier if we can. And so snowmaking will continue, again, based on the weather conditions. Through, I think we just ceased at the mountains a couple of weeks ago. It just depends on the weather. And the idea obviously is to make snow to have a solid base and foundation to keep the ski resorts open as long as possible. This year, right now, we are active and continue to remain open. And we will so until we just can't anymore. And so sometimes that goes as far as May, we've seen, but typically it's more about mid-April, just depending on what Mother Nature, and it's been actually a very challenging winter. And so our teams have actually done a great job to ensure that we have a base and we have lifts and trails open despite much of the variable weather. But yeah, there's plenty of snow right now at all 3 ski mountains.
Fantastic. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much. Thanks to all the attendees today for taking the time to take the tour. And thank you so much to Darcy and the entire Olympic Authority team for this really informative and really great presentation. And thank you for keeping your assets film friendly. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.